Welcome back to another episode of the Cap Table Pitch Competition by Corten Capital and Forbes Family Group. Today we toast the fantastic startups that have been involved in our Cap Table competition to win £10,000 towards their company. Meet our competition judges: Davina Williamson, Dean Forbes, Shah Wasmond, Joseph Shull. Today we have Your Queue. Your Queue enables healthcare professionals to provide continuous care for all their patients through their remote monitoring platform and finger-based device.
The co-founders of Your Queue, we've just entered the building.
Not really nervous, especially after the Gusto guys told us it's pretty calm and chill. So
Looking forward to it, yeah.
Hi.
Hi, Sonakshi.
Sonakshi, lovely to meet Davina.
Hi, Davina.
Davina.
Hi, Sonakshi.
Nikit, lovely to meet you. Thank you
Hi,
for
Shah.
coming.
Hi, Sonakshi.
I saw your intro on LinkedIn.
Oh, thank you.
Very excited.
Nice to meet
Nice
you. Nice to meet you.
Hi.
Hi, Shah. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
likewise. Joan, Mary, Raj, Mohammed. Just like my father, they were all found lifeless in their hospital beds. They died alone. Yet being a medic, I know that we could have increased their chances of survival if only they had been continuously monitored. Even in the UK, less than 3% of patients are continuously monitored for their vital signs when they're in hospitals. Everybody else is just monitored once every 4 to 6 hours, leaving open huge gaps for clinical deterioration, such as sepsis, respiratory depression, and cardiac events. Events that take more than 60,000 lives every year. Nurses are still spending up to 6 hours every day monitoring the vital signs of patients manually. And healthcare costs continue to rise.
The benefits of continuous monitoring are very clear. Improved patient outcomes, reduced readmission rates, increased patient engagement and efficiency by medical healthcare professionals, and reduced costs for the NHS. At Your Queue, our goal is to provide affordable and inclusive proactive care to all. We aim to continuously monitor every single patient right from admission to discharge. So we've developed a finger-based device, completely wireless, and it can work seamlessly across all wards in a hospital. It can continuously monitor pulse, blood oxygen, skin temperature, and blood pressure trends. Our software even allows your clinician to set up customizable alarms and notifications for your vitals.
So existing solutions out there that are being used right now are disconnected technologies, such as pulse oximeters, thermometers, and blood pressure cuffs. And when they are connected, they are bulky, wired, and expensive. They tie the patient down to the bed and they drown the hospital in bills. Our competitors have developed innovative solutions, but they either still use multiple devices that connect to the cloud together, or they just don't monitor all the necessary vital signs. And sometimes they can't be reused again. All these devices are at least 3 times more expensive than our offering, which means they still remain inaccessible to so many hospitals out there.
The focus on remote monitoring and healthcare is at an all-time high, making it the perfect moment to deploy a solution like ours. With our extensive knowledge of the Indian healthcare system, we intend to use it as a strategic test market due to its diverse demographic, dynamic landscape, and cost-effective ecosystem. This will help us refine our offering before a successful UK launch. With a total of 70,000 hospitals between UK and India, the market potential is huge.
It took 6 months for my co-founder Sonakshi and I to use the £13,000 that we got from Santander Uni and £20,000 of our own savings to develop this life-saving device. With respect to traction, we already have letters of intent and pre-orders from Indian hospitals. And we also have a government hospital, 500 bedded, who wants to do pilot studies with us.
So how do we do this? We integrate best-of-class medical-grade sensors with microprocessors and our in-house software to deliver a life-saving solution to healthcare providers. And our business model for both the markets is to sell the device at an upfront cost of £30 to £50 and a subscription cost of £2 per patient per day. Our traction in the Indian market is indicative that this is preferred by the small private hospitals there.
So far, we've kept our business lean. We've worked with contractors. And we've worked very hard to find the right people to support us. People who believe in our mission statement as strongly as we do ourselves. We're a fast-paced startup, and our plan for the next 3 months include electrical and clinical testing, applying for design patents, and beginning the process for CE certifications. To achieve our milestones, we're raising a total of £300,000 of investment, and for the same, we already have 2 investors who are ready to follow on, and we're looking for a lead investor as we speak. The prize money from today's competition will allow us to protect what we have built so far and enable us to write a very strong grant application to penetrate the NHS.
By awarding us today, you will have the chance to ensure that everyone has access to quality care, including all our loved ones. Thank you.
How did you come up with the idea?
So we came here in 2019 to do our masters, and then COVID happened. So luckily, because we used to study together, we used to do our entrepreneurship modules together. So when I went back to practicing in medicine, she went back to her hometown as well.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we kept in touch, discussing a different idea we had. But because I was practicing actively in COVID, there were so many incidents where young patients were dying when I would come back from my shift the next day. And then when we would go back and refer the files to find out what happened, when did, because you come back and you just talk to the nurse and you're like, that patient was not good enough to go back home. And they're like, no, they didn't go back home. They passed away last night. And I'm like, they were not in that bad a condition either. And then we kept on discussing, like, this is ridiculous.
There were inconveniences faced from his side as a healthcare professional, and on my side as a patient, going to every hospital, visiting it, and also having worked on an internship as a part of patient administration. I know that every hospital that I went to asked me to fill in forms all over again, and there wasn't a centralized system. So discussing, we came up with an idea to do electronic health records at the time. But that's kind of grown into doing continuous monitoring for all patients.
So how does that device differ from the ring you'd wear? What is it, like these?
My Aura ring.
Yeah.
That's what you're talking
how does
about.
what data does this gather that this doesn't gather?
So Aura is an absolutely amazing invention.
You should say that since I paid
how
like
do you-
500 quid for it.
How do you wear this? How do you wear
You
it?
just slip
Do you
it
need the sensor on my
Yeah.
on my palm?
Yeah.
Like-
So that's just our first prototype so far. See, we need to understand that Aura, Apple, Google, Fitbit, they've done amazing for the B2C healthcare space, where it's more health and fitness for people who are living at home, right? A device like ours is capable of taking 20 readings per second. An Aura ring, an Apple device, they would take, say for example, a reading every 5 minutes or 3 to 5 minutes, right? So the data you can gather by a device like this is way more extensive than anything that any of these B2C healthcare wearables do. Which is why when we use our device, it only lasts for 6 hours. It charges in 15 to 18 minutes, but it lasts only for 6 hours, whereas an Aura ring 7 days, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not possible for a wearable which is in B2C to do what we are doing, because it's completely different things. And to top it off,
Yeah, we've soft tested this in Indian hospitals, in the ICUs, and
intensive care units,
in intensive care units, and they have spot-on readings as the intensive care machines. So we're really pushing for the medical grade side of it to empower healthcare professionals, clinicians, nurses, even GPs who do telemedicine, to have a quick reading and a quick assessment of what our vitals look like before they dish out a diagnosis.
What of this do you own
So
that
the
cannot
design.
be contacted?
The design
that cannot be copied.
is our innovation.
The
way
design.
it fits on the finger.
Okay.
Also the way the components talk to each other. So with electronic components, the trick is not every microprocessor talks with every sensor and with every sensor hub. So it's a really tricky challenge. So that combination that we've used is that's something
your
that
IP.
that's our
So
IP.
that cannot be
It's
be.
very difficult because so the sensors we use are medical grade sensors from the beginning. They are all FDA approved. But when you use them, when you use them as a part of your device, you have to do the regulations again. They wanted us to use a microprocessor from their own company so that they maintain the IP, right? But they're not the best microprocessors out there. That company is amazing for the sensors they build. So we picked a microprocessor which is amazing for battery life, can do like 100 devices in a hospital, can all talk to each other and make sure that no device ever gets disconnected. So we chose the microprocessor from there and spent our time getting these things to talk together and maintain that functionality.
Just to get this clear, the 33,000 that you've spent, you've managed to spend 33,000 and build this and the software behind it. So that includes the software build that interprets all the data that's coming through. Is that correct?
Yes. So we've built enough software to be able to collect the data on our phone.
Yeah.
What we still do need to build is this data getting uploaded to the cloud, so it's
Totally
available
understand
everywhere.
that. Yeah. No, I think you've spent your money very wisely. Like,
Thank
I think
you.
that's a really
Thank
good
you.
sign. Do you think, and I don't know the answer because this is not my area of expertise at all, is the cost prohibitive for the NHS versus private hospitals? Because obviously there's a big difference in how the budgets are spent. Like,
So when we talk about private hospitals, we're looking at private hospitals in India.
Right.
So the way it's structured there is we don't have an organization such as the NHS. Everything comes from the patient's pocket. So when a patient pays around £12 a day for a ward, making it £14 to them, it doesn't make that much of a difference. The hospitals themselves can rebrand themselves as a smart hospital with just having this device for £30 a device. And it is definitely cost saving to the NHS, and this has been proven by our innovative competitors that are out there with their studies. The only difference being the NHS spends 3 times more than what they would by having our offering.
and I think that's probably something that would be really useful for you to spend a bit more time on working into your presentation. So on multiple levels. So I immediately go to litigation because I'm thinking, how much does the NHS spend each year on litigation with families whose loved ones have died in circumstances where they shouldn't have done?
Yeah.
So I think that if you can do some research into that to be able to say, you know, the NHS currently spends this amount on litigation in these
brilliant idea, yeah.
circumstances, and it currently spends this amount on wasted time, and it currently spends. And then it's very easy for the NHS to look at it and say, well, we know we are spending this money already, so we'll take it from that budget and put it in here. So just.
I don't think I never thought of that. That's
a
thank
good
you for
idea.
that.
Thank you for that.
So you mentioned competitors. I mean, like you say, you're on the back foot. Who is doing this? Who could bring this out very quickly?
There's so many people who do this in the States, but they haven't been able to come to India or come to UK, which is why we only showed competitors who have some sort of presence in the UK. So Docla is a company that provides internet connectivity to a pulse oximeter, a thermometer, a blood pressure cuff. They'll make sure that individual devices can talk to the internet, right? And they send these packages home. They mostly do virtual wards where patients stay at home and monitor themselves. The other one is Sensium, which has a patch that sits on your chest, but it's a 150-pound patch that cannot be reused. It can't even be probably worn for more than 2 or 3 days. You need to change it, right? It's very expensive compared to something like our device where you can just sanitize it. So it's going to be a silicone strap, remove the silicone strap, autoclave it, put it back on.
In some ways, I think that the argument might be even more compelling for India because there's so many parties that are well served by this in India. The patient, the patient's doctor, and the ability to pay may be a little bit of an issue, but willingness to pay will definitely be there. Whereas in the UK, you have ability to pay, but who's going to bear the cost and isn't perhaps as clear. In the UK, though, I think if you focus on home-based healthcare providers, so not the hospitals, but the providers that are sending staff out on a rota basis to check on patients, this enables them to send staff out where they're needed. But that's a fairly narrow niche in the UK. In India, I would just think it would be phenomenal. Every doctor would know when they need to make a home visit.
There's a bit of an overlap between both the markets until we attain our CE certification and patents for the device. Once we get the CE certifications, this device is classed as similar to a pulse oximeter. I don't know if you have one of those at home. So with that CE certification, then we can start selling to India. We've spent our last 6 months there working out distributors, who we need to target if it's ready for launch, which is why we're confident that we could still go parallelly for both markets.
We've literally just come back. It's been a week. We spent a lot of time, different cities, lots of doctors. We've done and we totally buy into the vision that India doesn't have anything like this, and especially of the size and form that we've made. So we definitely want to do it. It's just that the money is in the UK. So we need to raise and we need to find somebody who wants to invest in us and at the same time is happy with the India vision, because only then that we can make that work.
Thank you both so much.
Thank you guys.
Thank
Very
you.
impressive.
Yeah,
You're
really
very
impressive. Great
Very
energy,
impressive
passionate.
duo.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Great teamwork.
Thanks for your
Thank
time.
you.
Thank you guys.
So this has been a great experience, right from the social media stuff that we did to Dennis from Corten spending an hour training me. I did not realize it's that serious of a competition until the second pitch that I did with Dennis, and he sat me down and he's like, you really need to nail these couple of things. With respect to today, I'll let you take it on. How do you feel?
I was really a nervous wreck when I walked in, but I think the judges were really friendly. It was good. I've come out feeling more positive from this experience. Generally, with the competition, you feel the pressure. You feel like judges are going to ask you, did I answer it to the best of my abilities? We actually walked out with pretty good positive feedback and suggestions on how to think of or be aware of how to strategize further. So that was good.
The very fact that when we walked in, we had an introduction with each and every judge. I think the shaking of hands and the moving around a bit kind of softened their entrance rather than just going into the room and pitch,
Yeah.
which generally happens in most places. Really appreciate the judges we have today. I feel we both felt they're super experienced, especially with the Q&A. There was a lot of moments where we felt that something they say could literally be the next pivot in our business, which doesn't happen that often. Just speaks so much about how much they know. So,
But all in all, it was an amazing experience. Thank you to Dwayne from Forbes and Cap Table and Corten Capital for hosting this.
thank you so much.
That was good.
Everything about it was really
It's such a
really
brilliant
strong.
concept, though.
And the
As
two of
anybody
them were really
who's
good together.
spent time in hospital, it's just a game changer.